Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be taking a look at some fairly simple ways to reduce input lag if you play Fortnite with a controller. In case you're unfamiliar with that term, when it comes to gaming, input lag refers to any kind of delay between when you press a button on your controller and when the action is actually carried out in-game on your screen. And even though input lag is something that's kinda hard to recognize with just the naked eye, it really is a super impactful thing. If you guys watched the video I made on my channel a few weeks ago about my experience playing Fortnite on console for the first time in over a year, the thing that jumped out at me most was how much more input delay it felt like console had compared to PC. It was something that was instantly recognizable, and it was probably the biggest factor that led to me being so much worse on console. So what I hope to do in this video is share some of the simple things, emphasis on simple, that you can do with your setup to reduce the amount of input lag you get when you play. This topic can get super confusing super fast, but I'm gonna try to prevent that from happening, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so even though there are a bunch of different factors that affect input lag, the three main ones are the platform you play on, your controller, and your monitor. But not just the type of monitor you have, there's more to it than that, and we'll talk about it in more detail shortly. So obviously, as I alluded to in the intro, really good quality gaming PCs with high refresh rate / FPS are gonna have less input lag than consoles. But we're really just gonna keep it at that because me telling you to go out and buy a $1,000 PC isn't very practical advice, obviously, so that's that. Now, let's get into some of the more practical stuff, starting with the monitor / TV you play on. So as I've discussed before on this channel, gaming monitors are almost always going to have less input delay than regular TVs. But again, I want to keep the tips in this video practical, so much like telling you to go out and buy a gaming PC, telling you to go buy a super responsive monitor probably isn't all that helpful for 99% of people. However, no matter what monitor / TV you use, there are some things you can check for that could decrease your input delay. The first is a setting that apparently many monitors / TVs have called game mode / gaming mode / instant mode. It goes by a few different names depending on the type of TV / monitor. What this gaming / instant mode does for most systems is it turns off certain types of motion smoothing, which is a good thing, increases settings like brightness and contrast, which is whatever, you can always adjust that later, and most importantly, it slightly decreases input delay. I was a bit skeptical about that when I first heard about it, but I found a good video that tested if it really did, and the final conclusion was that yes, it does slightly decrease input delay. I'd show you guys that test footage, but it's from another YouTuber's video, and I don't want to mess with copyright, so I'll just link it in the description below in case you want to see the proof. Now sadly, since every TV / monitor out there is different, I can't really give you a step-by-step tutorial of how to turn this setting on. The best I can do is tell you how I did it on my BenQ monitor, and hopefully it'll be fairly similar for you. So first, I went into the picture mode menu and then switched my default picture mode from standard to gamer. Now this should turn instant mode on by default, but just to be sure, I then went into the picture menu, which is different than the picture mode menu, super confusing I know, and then I scrolled all the way down to the instant mode setting and made sure it was turned on. So if I were just using this monitor with the default standard mode like the majority of people probably are, instant mode would be turned off by default. And not just that, instant mode isn't even an option on the standard picture mode. For me to be able to enable it, I had to first switch to the gamer picture mode. And if you think that's unnecessarily confusing, I would definitely agree with you. The next thing you can do with your TV to reduce input delay is to turn off something called reduction features. I'll read off a paragraph from an article I found online about these input delay reducing methods that explain what reduction features are and how you can turn them off. New TVs come with at least a few reduction settings. They usually sit in their own sub-menu within a sub-menu, so it's tricky to find them, and once you do, it's a toss-up whether the TV will even explain the setting. There are tons of names for these settings. Noise reduction, mosquito reduction, NR reduction, and MPEG reduction are all likely candidates. Whatever they're called, they always increase input lag. Anything that alters the signal between your console's video output and your TV screen can cause input lag, so turn it all off, at least for starters. If you decide that you really need a certain feature, you can always play the game without it at first and then turn it on. You might notice that it affects response. So I personally couldn't find any of these features on my monitor, so I'm thinking it's probably more of a TV thing than a monitor thing, but either way, I would recommend checking for them and seeing if your TV/monitor has them defaultly enabled so you can turn them off. Another thing you want to try and find is something called motion modes. I'll read another quick excerpt from the same article, and it says, LG, Sony, and Samsung make it even more confusing as all have different names and brand titles for their motion mode settings. They all do basically the same thing though, and they all introduce some kind of input lag. Nearly every TV that we've tested for input lag goes from excellent to horrible if motion mode/motion smoothing is turned on. It may make the picture look a little better, but you'll be less able to control the game and essentially be eliminating any benefit you get from owning a gaming-ready TV. Again, much like the reduction features we just talked about, it seems like this is more of a regular TV thing than a gaming monitor thing, but it never hurts to check no matter what system you have. So that covers the simplest changes you can make to your TV/monitor to hopefully reduce input lag. And if you have any trouble finding these settings that you want to enable/disable, here's basically what I did. Since I have a BenQ monitor, I just googled BenQ instant mode or BenQ reduction features, and then I found videos or forum posts on how to turn those features on/off. Now, let's move on to how something as simple as the controller you play on also has an impact. So I've seen a bunch of different theories out there regarding how controllers impact input lag. I've seen some people say it's better to play on a wired controller because they have less input lag, and then I've seen the opposite. No, that's wrong, it's actually a lot better to play with a wireless controller. Well, the truth is, neither of those statements are totally true. It actually depends on whether you're using a PS4 or Xbox controller. Here's a graph that displays the results of a test a YouTuber named Rocket Science did regarding input lag of various different types of controllers. And I'll link the video down in the description below in case you want to see the full thing. But don't get too caught up here about the specific millisecond numbers. Focus more so on which of the PS4 and Xbox controllers have higher and lower values. So starting with the PS4, this test confirmed the theory that I've seen a few other YouTubers talk about, which is basically that the wireless DualShock PS4 controller, which is the default model, actually has less input lag wireless than when it's wired. And I don't play PS4, so don't kill me if I'm wrong here, but based on what I've heard, the way a PS4 controller becomes wired is if you play while plugging in the charging cable, which is apparently something people do. So it's as simple as this. If you want to avoid the extra input lag anytime you're using a PS4 controller, make sure it's wireless and not wired. For Xbox, on the other hand, this graph indicates that wired and wireless actually have the same amount of input delay, so luckily us Xbox players don't really have to worry about that. I'd personally be pretty interested in seeing if an advanced controller like a SCUF or Xbox Elite affects those input lag numbers in any way, but based on the research I did, even though I couldn't find anything totally conclusive, people online seem to be pretty confident that those types of controllers wouldn't affect input delay at all, so I wouldn't worry about that too much if you use one of them. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down the comment section below. Let me know if you guys are able to successfully make any of the changes to either your monitor or controller that I discussed in this video. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.